What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today I wanted to try out Galarian Moltres in the Open Great League. This Pokemon, I think, ever since the Annihilate Community Day, has been a little bit on the edge of the meta. Not quite as strong as it used to be because Dark types are obviously not that strong into Fighting-type Pokemon. With that said, it does have great coverage with Brave Bird and Ancient Power, so it's still a very strong core breaker. Before we get into the battles, I just want to say if you're enjoying these videos, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel so much, and I would really appreciate it. But let's get into the battles and see what Galarian Moltres can do. Alright, let's hop into game number 1. Galarian Moltres in the lead up against a Jumpfluff. This is a very good matchup, although honestly it's not as comfortable as you'd expect, saying they do have access to Fairy Wind as a fast move and neutral charge move pressure, but our opponent does end up swapping out to a Miltank. This has to make me wonder, are they running double rollout? That would be a very smart idea for us to potentially have been baited out by this Miltank, and then maybe a Dunsparce in the backline could sweep me. If that is the team comp, then we have to keep that in mind as a potential lose condition. With that said, I know Quagsire in this matchup is very strong. We can get a lot of energy, not only for this matchup right here, but also potentially to Stone Edge that Jumpfluff later on. In comes yet another Aqua Tail. Our opponent is going to opt to let it go. At this point, I will shield up our Shadow Quagsire, trying to keep some energy and health, because if I do need my Quagsire in the backline, I want to keep it healthy so that Dunsparce could not be quite as big of a threat. Our opponent going to come back in with that Jumpfluff of all things here, and I'm going to go now for this Stone Edge. This should do a lot of damage if it goes through, and if it gets shielded, then at least we're at shield parity. Our opponent does opt to let it go, so because of that, I will swap into my Moltres, try to bait out the Dunsparce, but no, it's going to be a different Pokemon in the backline. Not exactly what I was expecting here. The Annihilate comes on in, which we are going to be able to throw the Ancient Power bait and draw a shield. We have a lot of neutral fast move pressure with Sucker Punch, but they have a lot of neutral fast move pressure here with their counters. I believe that was not even going to be an Ice Punch worth of energy. They only went straight for a Rage Fist. We can no-shield that, go for a Brave Bird right after, and try to knock out this Pokemon. This super effective damage will obviously knock them out if they do let it go, but I would expect to shield a farm down, and then, oh, never mind, I guess they do just let that go. Never mind then. Corsola should, at this point, be able to fast move this down and take the win here this game, especially after that nice Energy Ball catch. Our opponent could have gone for an Aerial Ace bait, but I would really doubt that at this point. Yeah, Energy Ball comes through, knocks out Quagsire, and now Corsola should have more than enough HP and energy to finish off this game. GG's to our opponent. All right, next game, Galarian Moltres up against Guzzlord. Terrible, terrible lead matchup. Honestly, our whole team is kind of weak to this, right? Moltres is doing almost no fast pressure here. They're having a lot of neutral damage against us as well, but our opponent throws after 6. That has to be a Sludge Bomb, so I'm going to shield this up, and hopefully Moltres can draw shields with Ancient Power baits or Brave Birds to potentially knock them out. Our opponent is building up once again, but we have Ancient Power. We're basically at 100 energy here, so let's see if they want to make the call. Ancient Power does draw that first shield, and then Brave Bird should be able to either knock out or draw the second shield from our opponent. If this does get shielded, this will get a little uncomfortable. I will swap out, though, keep our Moltres in the backline if we do need it, and Shadow Quagsire should be able to put in work now that no shields are in play. I can no-shield this knowing that it's not going to knock us out, but this Guzzlord might get to a second charge move before we're able to reach a Stone Edge. Yeah, here it comes. Unfortunately, our Quagsire just barely not able to reach it, and an Aqua Tail would not have been enough to knock out from this range. Our opponent does throw that Brutal Swing, and then they come in instantly. Well, a Rangaroo, okay, not exactly what we were hoping to see right now, but potentially this is an opportunity to farm this down with Moltres. I don't know. Our opponent might just get a full farm down against us here, which could be very bad. I do get to an Aqua Tail at the last second, but it's not going to be quite enough to knock us out, and our opponent likely is going to survive and get a charge move off either against our Corsola or our Moltres. With that said, I know Corsola might be able to catch a Trailblaze. Maybe they were trying to throw this against our Moltres. They instantly threw. Our opponent does Trailblaze, so luckily a little bit less damage than it could be otherwise, and we are able to get a 2 Astonish lead, which means as long as no catch happens, we can actually land a Power Gem against this Guzzlord and take them out before it has to do too much work against our Corsola here. In comes Power Gem. It does knock them out. Final Pokemon going to be revealed. It is a Toxapex, a Pokemon that, while it is a little tricky for our Pokemon at such low HP, is actually a pretty good matchup here for Corsola because we resist these Poison Jab fast moves, and I know Nightshade and Astonish are a very strong combination of attacks that should be able to whittle them down very quickly. Our opponent throwing that first brine. It should not be enough to knock us out, but they will need a second charge move. They are getting close, though, to that second brine, and I know these Astonishes and Nightshades are not going to quite knock them out before they can reach that next attack. Luckily, I think Moltres does have a bit of HP left over on it. There's a chance, even if Corsola goes down, that we can Sucker Punch this down with our Galarian Moltres. In comes the next brine. This will knock us out at this range, but I know our Galarian Moltres is still healthy, but is it healthy enough? 1, 2, 3 Sucker Punches is all it takes here. We are able to finish off that game with our Flying and Dark-type Pokemon. GG's to them. Next matchup, Serperior in the lead. One of the best leads we can see. We want this to not be on our Shadow Quagsire if we can help it, and also Shadow Drapion. Probably a Pokemon that we're kind of weak to with this team, right? We're a little ABA weak to it, having both Corsola and Galarian Moltres, so having a Shadow Quagsire against this is fantastic. With that said, I know Moltres can have play into this, so if we do see that in the lead, I do just stay in that matchup, but since we do see it on the safe swap, might as well come in with our best answer, Shadow Quagsire, and go for these Aqua Tails. Our opponent actually did end up shielding that first Aqua Tail, which is kind of interesting. Normally, you don't have to shield up the Aqua Tail as a Drapion if you want to win the Zero Shield matchup, So it looks like they really want to flip switch advantage right now. With that said, because I did end up CMPing here, I'm going to try to go for an undercharge, see if I can get a couple extra mud shots, which we are able to get 3 more mud shots here, maybe helping us either reach an Aqua Tail or a Stone Edge against that Serperior. Looks like probably not a Stone Edge. An Aqua Tail, though, will at least do a little bit of chip damage against this Grass-type Pokemon. Won't do much, but it might put them into a range where later on, maybe Ancient Power's Sucker Punches, Astonishes, Nightshades could potentially knock them out, but right now it's not going to help us out too much. In comes a charge move here, likely going to be a Frenzy Plant. It does do more damage, despite Aerial Ace being neutral, Frenzy Plant being resisted. It just sets a strong move. It does end up doing more damage. Our opponent is now going to swap out, and what is this? A Bastiodon? That I don't think is good for us. They did save a lot of energy on that Serperior. I have a lot of energy as well on my Moltres, but because Ancient Power and Brave Bird are both resisted by this Bastiodon, we absolutely need for a Corsola to be able to win this head-to-head matchup. With that said, I know I can survive one Stone Edge, but I think Bastiodon is going to be able to win this matchup the longer it goes on. Stone Edge will two-shot us. Astonish and Nightshade does not even come close to two-shotting them, not at least before I do a lot more fast food pressure, so I think at this point we are in a lot of trouble. In comes yet another Nightshade. It's not going to knock them out or even draw a shield likely, but this is going to put them into a range where maybe we can Sucker Punch and Ancient Power and somehow knock this out. I don't know for sure. At this point, in comes the Stone Edge. Our opponent likely going to try to combo play us here, but I don't want to take a Frenzy as well on my Moltres. Moltres has a lot of energy, so I'm going to let them drain energy into my Corsola, and hopefully I can farm them down, but I don't think I quite can, so I will have to go for this Ancient Power before they can get off another charge move. If I can get a boost, we're in a very good spot. I don't think that we will, though. Very low chance of it. Yeah, no boost there, and now we have to hope that somehow we can Sucker Punch down this Bastion. It's not doing any damage to them here. Ancient Power, even if it boosts us at this point, is not going to be enough for us to win this game. I guess we're just going to get completely smacked down by this Bastiodon. Unfortunate stuff. We won the lead very hard, won the swap, but Bastion in the back a little bit too much for us. Our opponent flexing on us this next game with a shiny Galarian Moltres. I actually do have a Great League eligible shiny Galarian Moltres I could use, but its stats are kind of bad. With that said, the one I'm using now has really bad stats too. It's a pretty attack-weighted one, so maybe I should just use the shiny instead. But either way, this one has a better CP, so I'm just kind of sticking with it. My best CP out of like 10 or 15 Moltres is 1488, so a little embarrassing, but it is still good enough here to do the job. Our opponent does opt to, oh my goodness, I'm going to try to catch the Ancient Power, but they opt to overfarm a little bit more and no-shield their Ancient Power, so now I have to double shield before they've shielded a single time. Almost certainly a Brave Bird coming through, which we are able to shield, and our opponent ends up counter-swapping with a Gastrodon. With that said, we have a bit of an energy lead here. We might be able to get to 2 Aqua Tails before our opponent is able to get to an Earth Power, and it looks like that will be the case. They're at 5 Mudsaps. They need 6 to reach that first Earth Power, so we can either draw a shield or basically knock out 2 Pokemon so far this game without even seeing their third. Our opponent does let it go, which means this is a prime farm down range for either our Corsola or potentially our Moltres to get even more energy and to use that as a way to recoup our lost shields. Our opponent might have undercharged there, so I am going to swap out, save a little bit of our Quagsire in the backline just in case we need it, and in comes their final Pokemon. It's a double Mudslap team. Very interesting stuff here. Luckily, Moltres is going to be able to resist these ground-type moves. We get a boost as well. Not that I think I need it, but honestly, I love getting that right there because it makes my life a lot easier. Now, Ancient Power likely will start drawing shields, and it also is going to make it so our Sucker Punches are just ripping through this thing's health. We have our Corsola as well in the backline. Corsola being one of the bulkiest Pokemon in Great League right now, able to neutral game its way through this Marowak, even if it wasn't this chip down. Our opponent tries to go for a Sucker Punch down. Unfortunately, they're so low at this point that it's not going to be anywhere near enough to put us into range where we can get knocked out by a Bone Club. So we can come in, go for the Nightshade with our Corsola, and finish off this Marowak using our Corsola here in the endgame. GG's to them. Interesting Moltres double Mudsap team. I guess they're ABA to a lot of stuff, but I mean, so am I. So it's kind of hard to find good pairings with Moltres. And as we're going to find out this game, I'm ABA weak to Wigglytuff, a Pokemon that I don't normally like being ABA weak to, but Shadow Quagsire generally is a very safe swap into these teams. And if I can get shields down, Brave Bird is going to do a lot of damage to that Wigglytuff, so that right now is my goal. Our opponent's staying in here for quite some time, actually. I would love if they no-shield this next Aqua Tail, but I would assume they do end up shielding it up, which is also kind of good for me. At this point, Ancient Power, maybe Power Gem from our backline could knock out this Wigglytuff if they end up swapping out. Comes a Swift here, not even an Icy Wind though, which means that they have not debuffed me. Aqua Tail, if it does end up landing, is going to get the knockout. But if they opt to shield this up, I don't know how I'm going to finish off this Wigglytuff from this range. They do shield it up, so I'm probably going to have to come in with our Corsola, who, despite doing a lot of well, not doing any damage, I should say, with the fast moves, is able to finish it off with either a Nightshade or a Power Gem at this range, given that it is so low for this Wigglytuff. But we will have to expend energy here, especially after that Icy Wind debuff. No way we can Astonish down before taking way too much damage, or potentially letting them get to another charge move. Nightshade coming through. Our opponent is going to let their Wigglytuff go down at this point, and it is hopefully going to be a backline that we can win with our Moltres. Okay, very winnable. Honestly, I think that we can have a chance here. Dewgong is not a bad matchup for Moltres, at least not as bad as you'd think it is. Super effective Ancient Power, really really does a lot of damage. Same with these Sucker Punches, which are really going to start adding up. With that said, they can debuff us with this Icy Wind, which is a little unfortunate, but Drifloon in the backline is not a bad matchup for Corsola either. As long as we can take out this Dewgong here, get a lot more Sucker Punch damage, and then potentially Nightshade that Drifblim, we should be able to win this game. We have a lot of energy left over on Corsola, so we need to have perfect energy management. We get a boost as well. I don't think that boost matters in the slightest here, but we'll take it once again to take out the Wigglytuff lead. That's one of the trickiest leads we can see here, but able to barely overcome it. Next matchup going to be up against a Talonflame. This Pokemon, I was going to say, is a kind of neutral lead. Honestly, it's not that great for us just because they do have access to Fly, and it will outpace us in the 2-shield matchup, but they did end up instantly swapping out to their Shadow Drapion, which once again, I'm happy to align my Shadow Quagsire into, and I know that Quagsire normally has a lot of play to these teams. Aqua Tail comes through, it actually ends up landing here, and because we know there is going to be a Talonflame in the lead matchup, I can shield this up and either throw Stone Edge or Aqua Tail into the Talonflame, or see their entire team before we have to reveal our third. Our opponent making the decision, what are they going to come in with here? Is it going to be that Talonflame once again, or is it going to be something else? It is going to be the Talonflame that comes in, so I'm going to go for the Stone Edge, try to get a cheeky little one-shot here. Let's see if they end up shielding this up, or if I can get that move off. No, they do shield up the move, and because I'm kind of worried about what could be in the back, I'm going to try to save a little bit of HP and energy on our Shadow Quagsire. We have almost a full Stone Edge loaded there. In comes a Fly. It does almost nothing to us, and our opponent is going to stay in here. So that means maybe an Annihilate in the back, maybe something that's weak to Corsola. With that said, this next move is going to be a Brave Bird, at least potentially, so I will shield it up. Our opponent does go for it. They'll probably swap out, but no, they're staying for a second here. I might be able to go for a full Astonish down, which might be extremely helpful. We do get the full Astonish down. What is in the back? A Wigglytuff. Interesting. I would have expected that to come in the second that I ended up shielding the Brave Bird, but no, I guess our opponent giving us a huge energy lead here, absolutely helping us out, because if I didn't have all of this energy, I don't know that we could quite knock this out with all of these Power Gems and Aqua Tails that we have loaded. We have an Aqua Tail once again on our Shadow Quagsire. This will be able to knock them out if it ends up going through, but our opponent likely will shield up this attack. Once again, though, Moltres almost at an Ancient Power here. We can come back in with it, go for the Ancient Power, and guarantee the knockout against the Wigglytuff. I think if our opponent would have brought this Pokemon in a little bit sooner against our Corsola, this would have been a much different endgame here, but our opponent coming in a little bit late, giving us a lot of energy on Corsola, really helped us out. All right, next game, Shadow Drapion in the lead. Let's see what they're going to do here. Our opponent's staying in, obviously. It's a very awkward matchup for us since Corsola in the backline is even weaker. But honestly, look at how much damage we're doing with these Sucker Punches here. Ancient Power as well is going to be able to do a decent chunk of their health if they end up letting it through Aqua Tail. It doesn't do that much damage, but the second one is going to come very shortly after. So I will throw this Ancient Power and try our best to chip down this Shadow Drapion. In comes the Ancient Power. No boost, unfortunately, this time, but we can shield up this next attack and get to the next Ancient Power right at the same exact time as their next Aqua Tail. Best case scenario, I'm able to CMP this, win CMP, and it looks like that is exactly what's going to happen. Ancient Power is not going to quite knock out, but at this point, I don't really need it to. I just need this Drapion to be as low as possible to make sure it cannot crunch my Corsola later on this game. In comes an Aqua Tail. This should knock me out as long as they fully charge it, but our opponent making a very nice play. They undercharge and try to get a farm down with Annihilate, but I am able to respond before the 2 counters register on our Moltres. Corsola is one of the best answers to this Pokemon. I can no-shield the first Rage Fist, shield the second if we need to, or just throw the Nightshade here in just a second to try to guarantee the knockout against this Annihilate. In comes our Nightshade. This will easily knock them out at this range no matter what, as long as they end up letting it go. But they do shield it, which is kind of interesting. Does that mean that they're weak to our Corsola in the backline? If so, I want to keep our Corsola alive if we can. Might be their own in the back, might be, honestly, it could be anything at this point. Shadow Drapion, Annihilate, very strong duo. Hard to really team read off of that. Our opponent comes in with an Azumarill, so very happy here that I'm able to see this where I am. Our opponent is going to stay in here, no catch just yet on a Nightshade, which is fantastic because our Shadow Quagsire, despite being neutral in this matchup, is a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. I'm going to call the catch here, just keep on overfarming, which is exactly what ends up happening. Our opponent does not even want to check if our backline is weak to that Azumarill. They're out of here. GG's to them, but next game is going to be a Clodsire in the lead. Honestly, this lead matchup is a little bit more neutral than it could be, I guess, if they have Sludge Bomb, but I don't want to risk that they have Stone Edge and just get one shot on our Moltres, so we get out of there to our Shadow Quagsire. Unfortunately, we are responded to by a Shadow Alligator, a Pokemon that has a lot of fast move pressure and charge move pressure against our Shadow Quagsire, and we are also in a very tricky spot where I have to double bait if I ever want a chance to flip this matchup. We did get the 2 Mudshot energy lead that we need to have a chance here to flip it, but our opponent, if they ever call an Aqua Tail, puts us in a very bad spot. The second one, I am going to go for a Stone Edge. They might try to call the double bait. Stone Edge is going to end up getting shielded though, so very good calls by our opponent, but I know I can still outpace them to this next Aqua Tail and at least get some chip damage, put them into range where they're going to be in Sucker Punch down range before yet another charge move is going to come through. through from the Shadow Gator. With that said, I'm only going to get maybe 1 or 2 at most Sucker Punches of energy, and I have to hope that our Corsola in the backline is not in a bad spot with whatever their final Pokemon is going to be. In comes, unfortunately, a Dewgong. That is not what we want to see here. This Pokemon, despite not being that horrible for our Moltres, is going to be able to survive a Brave Bird, go for a debuff against our Corsola, and because of that, I'm pretty sure this Clodsire is going to be able to overcome not only our Corsola, but also our Moltres later on. I can see win conditions for us, but they mainly revolve around catching an Earthquake. If I can do that, there's a good chance we can win this game, but if they are very patient, and because they're using a 2-turn move into a 3-turn move, it's going to be very hard for me to make a catch. This is likely not going to be a win. In comes the first charge move, likely going to be an Earthquake here. It does a lot of damage, but if they're running Sludge Bomb, then they need to throw yet another Earthquake to knock us out. If they have Stone Edge, though, this game is probably well over at this point, because they could just Stone Edge twice and win the matchup. After that debuff, I don't even come close to putting them below half health with that Nightshade plus Astonish damage. The second one will come through, but they are overfarming so much, they know at this point that we are debuffed. I try to make a catch, but no catch is going to end up happening. They overfarm to 100 energy, so even if this is a Sludge Bomb, they are going to be able to reach another one very soon after. Sludge Bomb is thrown, we are in range that knocks us out, and unfortunately they are able to take the game there. All right, next matchup here, Moltres up against a Shadow Marowak in the lead. One of the best lead matchups that we could see, and an instant save swap of a Dunsparce. This is a good spot to be in. Once again, this is a bit of a core breaker for Moltres plus our Corsola. With that said, we are able to neutralize this with our Quagsire quite well. In comes the first drill run. We don't quite get two-shot, but rollout will eventually put us into range where that second rollout would knock us out. So I want to throw our charge moves first, make sure I can get some chip damage against them if possible, and our opponent once again throwing a charge move. With that said, I know that we win this matchup so hard that we are able to no-shield this attack, go for another Aqua Tail, maybe draw a shield here depending on how much they want switch advantage, and see how they want to play this out. I know that at this point we are very low, but I don't want to give them a huge farm down on that Marowak, so we are able to not only throw one Aqua Tail, but a second one. If they want to shield this, they can get switched, but they need 2 shields to do so. Aqua Tail number 2 comes through, our opponent does double shield, and now I have a decision to make. I think Corsola is going to be the better place to soak this energy here. I think our opponent is going to end up throwing all of their energy against us, and come in with Marowak in this matchup later on. With that said, this is going to be a bit of a charge move onslaught here. They did get a full farm down against our Shadow Quagsire, so a lot of charges coming through. I want to save our energy, try to sucker punch them down, and we see an Azumarill as their final Pokemon come on in. With that said, I know that even though this isn't the best matchup in the world, Moltres is going to be able to land these Brave Birds, and I think 2 charge moves after the sucker punch damage will be more than enough to knock them out. I don't want to throw another Brave Bird at this point because it will lower my defense even more and use a lot of energy. I need a Brave Bird in the backline for that Marowak as well. I know I have a lot of energy on my Corsola. I can reset my debuff if I need to, and I can double shield my Moltres and try to overfarm as much energy as we possibly need. At this point, I think they're in range where Ancient Power will knock them out. I don't want to take too many more bubbles here this game, so I will throw the Ancient Power when we get to back-to-back charge moves and see what comes in. If they end up coming in with that Marowak, I can go for the Brave Bird. If it was the Dunsparce, I could go for the Ancient Power. They do come in Marowak, which is probably the better of the 2 scenarios for me. I can go for a heavy hitting charge move. This doesn't quite one-shot, but it comes very close. I can Astonish down, go for a Power Gem against his Dunsparce, and the game should be ours. At this point, Power Gem will be more than enough to knock out this Dunsparce, and they have almost no HP on that Marowak. Even if they did have enough energy to knock us out, our Moltres was still in the back. Alright, next game, a Charjabug in the lead, a very awkward lead matchup, mainly because they have access to that electric type damage that Moltres is so very weak to, but our opponent coming in with a Corviknight as a response to our Shadow Quagsire, definitely not the best answer to us, but it is a Pokemon that can resist our fast moves, so we need to land 2 charge moves if we want to knock them out. Probably going to have to also land a Stone Edge as one of those 2. They did no-shield our first Aqua Tail here, and they go for a Sky Attack of their own, which does a decent chunk of damage, but not quite enough here to knock us out. We are able to survive these Sand Attacks quite a bit, because Sand Attack is such a low-damage fast move, and in comes a Stone Edge. Our opponent does opt to shield that up, unfortunately for us, but they throw almost instantly, and at this point, I can see a prime farm down range for our Moltres, and because I know we have Ancient Power on Moltres, I'm not all that scared of Charjabug. All I need to do at this point is get a lot of energy, try to throw Ancient Powers, get a lot of damage against that little Electric-type Pokemon, and we might still be in a good spot. And comes yet another charge move, just going to be a Sky Attack though, the fast move pressure doing nothing to our flying type Pokemon, which means we get a full Sucker Punch down, have almost all of our HP, and we are at back-to-back Ancient Powers. The first one going to come through here, it will likely not get a shield because they know this could boost our attack stat. Our opponent does let it through, it comes yet another Ancient Power, and this should, at this point, draw the shield if they want to save their Charjabug. Yeah, they do end up shielding their Charjabug here. I'm going to try to catch a Discharge if possible, maybe even an X-Scissor, because that was after 5 Volt Switches. They are at another X-Scissor right now. What is their their final Pokemon going to be? That is the big question. Our opponent comes in with it. It's their own Moltres. Okay, I don't know how this is going to go. I think their Sucker Punches, though, adding up a little bit too quickly here. If that is the case, they might be able to Sucker Punch us all the way down before another charge move is reached. If they can, then we probably lose this game because we need to knock them out before they are able to farm down. Unfortunately, we don't have a charge move, and they are able to throw the Ancient Power. They have an X-Scissor as well on their Charjabug, so at this point, not much I could do. I'm just going to lose this game. GG to them. All right, next game here, they are going to have a Shadow Marowak once again against our Galarian Moltres lead. This is a very good matchup for us, but this time our opponent safe swapping a Clodsire. Honestly, an even better situation than when they safe swap a Dunsparce, because I know that Clodsire is such a bad matchup here for the Shadow Quagsire. It's a bad matchup for them, that is. Earthquake will be able to do quite a bit of damage, but because they had a Marowak in the lead, I know at this point all I need is a little bit of energy to land an Aqua Tail against that Ground-type Pokemon. It's a very squishy Pokemon, despite being a bulkier Shadow. It's still not going to want to take a Shadow Aqua Tail from a Clodsire, or from a Quagsire, that is. And they only went for an Aqua Tail, or I'm mixing up all my words right now. They only went for a Sludge Bomb that second time, so I did no-shield it. We have back-to-back Aqua Tails, and this one should be able to knock them out. And then we have yet another Aqua Tail for this Marowak when it comes back in, if it comes back in, that is. They are taking a second to decide, so it was a bit of a decision. I wonder what their final Pokemon is going to be. We do land this Aqua Tail against them, which, if it goes through, is going to do massive damage. That is easily range, where Ancient Power plus Sucker Punch could knock them out. But unfortunately, it's going to be one of the trickiest Pokemon we can see in the backline. We were happy when we saw that we had our Clodsire, or our Quagsire against the Clodsire, but this is going to be one of the worst things that we would see here. Going to be that Dunsparce Core Breaker, which we're going to have to somehow take out in the backline. With that said, I know that the only reason that the Dunsparce is a good matchup here is because they resist our Fast Food Pressure. We do have access to Power Gem, which is going to do a lot of neutral damage to them, and Sucker Punch from Galarian Moltres is a very powerful move. There's a chance here, if we can land this Power Gem, we might be able to commit to a full Fast Food Farm down after the fact. Our opponent going through a charge move here right before I reach a move. Actually, no, they are not. They're going to try to catch a move on their Marowak, but honestly, at this point, that's fine by me. I'm able to throw this Nightshade, get rid of this Pokemon, and at this point, just force them to throw energy here, and then commit to a full fast move farm down. I know that Sucker Punch is going to do a ton of damage, and there's no way I'm going to get to 3 charge moves at this point before we're able to farm them all the way down. Every time we throw a charge move, they get a little bit of energy for free, so I don't want to let them have any bit of free energy here. In comes the first Rock Slide. They are not at back-to-back, though. They barely got it right when they got farmed down, so GG's to our opponent. Very close matchup at the end game there with that Dunsparce Core Breaker. All right, next game, honestly, a bit of a tricky lead. I don't know exactly how to play this one out. I know sometimes swapping to Shadow Quagsire could be a good play, but also just Sucker Punch and Ancient Power. If you end up throwing it instantly, it's going to do a massive amount of damage to this Dewgong. In comes the Ancient Power, but they opt to shield it, but that's fine by me. I got a boost, which is absolutely fantastic. Now we're going to take a lot less fast move farm down pressure from these Ice Shards, and we're going to be at neutral attack after that debuff came through. With that said, next Ancient Power once again going to outpace this Dewgong right before their next Icy Wind. Do they want to shield the second one up? No, they do opt to let it go. And we are going to just let our Moltres go at this point. It has done its job, put it into prime farm down range for our Shadow Quagsire, and because we are able to get so much energy here with Quagsire, I think we're going to be in a good spot as long as our backline is not a hard answer to our Water and Ground-type Pokemon. They're thinking at this point, what did they come in with? Looks like Azumarill is going to be what they choose to come in with, which is interesting. Not the hardest answer, but still a very good wall to our energy right now. First Stone Edge will come through, and then I think at this point, if this is their best answer, I want to keep my Shadow Quagsire alive, potentially use it as a Pokemon against the backline. They have not swapped out yet. They're going to go for a chip with a Play Rough against our Corsola. Maybe they're going to swap out now. Let's see what they end up doing. Our opponent, no, they're staying in for quite a long time here, and I don't really know what to do. At this point, I'm kind of thinking they might be weak to some sort of Rock-type damage at this point. There's a chance they might try to make a catch here because I don't really know what they might have in the back. I'm just going to throw the Power Gem. They were weak to both our Quagsire and our Corsola, so I'm thinking maybe like a Talonflame or a Charjabug. Okay, well, I guess that's equally good for us, right? The Power Gem is going to do a lot of damage, so we can throw this against them. Draw a shield or not. Honestly, a very smart call. I think the Power Gem would do a lot less damage here to this Charjabug than a Shadow Stone Edge, so good call by them. No shielding, the less damaging move. With that said, we can still reach 2 Aqua Tails, knock out this Charjabug, and survive an X-Scissor right now, which means at this point that we should be in a very good spot. First X-Scissor is reached. We're going to be able to survive that. We have a shield for the second one, and our opponent at this point will not be at a third until another Volt Switch or 2, so all we have to do is throw this Aqua Tail and take the game here. Very interesting team. Dewgong, Azumarill, and Charjabug. Very strong trio of Pokemon, but fortunately, our Moltres getting that boost in the lead definitely helped us out to set us up for the endgame. All right, next matchup, Corviknight in the lead. Fantastic lead matchup. Honestly, one of the best you could possibly see here with Moltres. And they Zay swap a Shadow Marowak. Honestly, I don't know who's weaker to Moltres, Marowak or Corviknight. I know this thing does have super effective rock type damage, but with that said, they're also, unfortunately for them, going to be stuck doing no faster pressure once again. Our opponent does, in fact, wait a turn to make sure that we don't make a catch. I was going to try to do one Sucker Punch and catch on the rock slide, so a good play by them. Rock slide does come through, but once again, I can catch the rock slide on the next one and go for a Corsola farm down, potentially having energy lead on this could put us in a very good spot. Our opponent, once again, is not able to reach another charge move. They give us a full farm down, and what are they going to bring in to try to take out our Corsola up this much energy? Looks like it's going to be in the Azumarill, and at this point, I think we're in a very good spot. We have our Moltres that is going to love to see that Corviknight. We have our Corsola, which is going to whittle down this Azumarill so much, and Quagsire, which is very good against both of the backline Pokemon as well. Our opponent is not even going to be able to put us into range just yet, where we can get knocked out by a Play Rough. The next Play Rough will probably do about 35-40% of our HP, and until they get a couple more bubbles in, this will not be enough to knock us out. At this point, I can just Safe Swap our Shadow Quagsire, come and get an energy lead, and then use our Moltres as a way to finish off this game once this Azumarill is out of the way. Our opponent will throw a Charge Move, but that's fine. I can no-shield this knowing that at this point our Moltres is our win condition, and know that they have no fast move pressure on that Corviknight when it comes back in. They do come in with Corviknight. I have Aqua Tail number 1 already ready to go. This will likely not draw a shield, but the next one will put them into range. Oh, I guess they do opt to shield that attack up. I am totally wrong, but that's fine. At this point, I am almost at back-to-back charge moves. I might as well go for the Stone Edge or maybe double Aqua Tail to try to get as much damage as we can to put them into an easy Sucker Punch down range for our Moltres. First Aqua Tail coming through. I don't think I can quite get to a Stone Edge before they're able to reach another Iron Head, so I'm going to just throw this back-to-back, put them into range where we can farm them down or potentially land an Ancient Power to knock them out because my Moltres also still has a bit of energy on it. We do one move, and then we throw the Ancient Power. Our opponent making a fantastic catch, though, on the Azumarill, and because of their great counting, I'm going to have to make sure that I undercharge that, get a full farm down, so I can have a bit more energy to not get knocked out by that Sky Attack and CMP them, or potentially outpace them to this Ancient Power. Our opponent not quite at the move yet. Ancient Power should be able to knock them out and finish off that game despite their catch attempt there. GG's to them. All right, next matchup, it's going to be Moltres against Shadow Probopass. I don't think anyone can say that this Pokemon was on their bucket list to see today in the Go Battle League. With that said, Corsola, a very safe Pokemon against a lot of these teams that have weird Pokemon like this, so I'm going to safe swap it and see what our opponent's going to do. They are staying in for a second. I have no idea what that could imply. Maybe it's just like a complete Spice team. Maybe it's like a Grass Hole team. It's hard to say at this point. I'm going to no-shield this charge move. Magnet Bomb does a lot of damage, but in comes a Shadow Quagsire. All right, that's interesting. I don't know what you'd have in the back with a Shadow Probopass Shadow Quagsire team, but at this point, I just have to hope that we are able to leverage shield advantage to our success. They end up getting to back-to-back charge moves here. I can't really shield this attack up, because if I do, they're at the next Aqua Tail, and I want to save shields potentially for my Galarian Moltres to use as a Brave Bird energy later on in this game. I don't know why I said it like that, but basically I want to get as much energy as I can for Moltres to start Brave Birding things in the backline. We have chipped down that Probopass into a range where it is no longer going to be able to do too much to our Moltres. We have a lot of energy here. They did bait an Aqua Tail, but the second one is going to be a Stone Edge, luckily. So despite double shielding, we should be in a very good spot. Our opponent swaps out to the Shadow Probopass once again, which is very interesting. What are they going to bring in the back? Okay, it's just Grassful. Okay, just a slightly spicier version of Grassful here. With that said, Stone Edge is going to be able to one-shot them or get a shield, but they are running Magical Leaf, so they are one fast move away from a Sludge Bomb, which would do a massive amount of damage. I'm just going to full send the Brave Bird, try to knock this out as quickly as possible, and hope that our opponent's not going to be able to reach his Stone Edge here with his Shadow Quagsire. They get a charge move. I think I survived an Aqua Tail with 1 HP. A Stone Edge will knock us out here. What is it going to be? Aqua Tail, barely we are able to survive, somehow overcome the spicier version of Grasshole here. GG's to them, I guess. That was a strange team to see in the Go Battle League. Glad I was able to overcome that one here. Shadow Probopass would have been a little bit embarrassing to lose to, but a lot of fun battles using Galarian Moltres and Galarian Corsola, Shadow Quagsire as well, one of my favorite Pokemon in the Go Battle League. This team was a very successful team today in Go Battle League. I was able to do a 23-7 day, and I think I climbed about 200 points using it. So definitely if you have these Pokemon, a little hard to get Corsola and Moltres, but if you have them, it is a very powerful team comp. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see videos like this in the future, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a ton, and I'm going to be uploading a lot more videos basically every single day, so I'd love to see you in the future ones. And thank you again for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.